Adolf Hitler. On January 30, 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Adolf Hitler Reich Chancellor of Germany. The National Socialist German Workers' Party gained control of the government after a series of elections and coalition agreements. After the Reichstag fire, an emergency decree was issued that abolished basic civil liberties. In March 1933, the Enabling Act was passed, transferring legislative power to the cabinet. Opposition parties were banned, trade unions were dissolved, and a one-party system was established. In 1934, after Hindenburg's death, Hitler merged the offices of President and Chancellor, proclaiming himself Führer. Rearmament was initiated and conscription was restored in defiance of international agreements. In 1938, the Anschluss of Austria and the occupation of the Sudetenland were carried out. On September 1, 1939, German troops invaded Poland, which triggered the Second World War. In the occupied territories, a system of ghettos, forced labor, and mass executions was introduced. In 1941, the invasion of the Soviet Union began. At the same time, a program of the systematic extermination of the Jews of Europe was implemented. Approximately 6 million Jews were killed in death camps, as well as millions of other civilians and prisoners of war. In April 1945, Soviet troops encircled Berlin. On April 30, 1945, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. On May 8, 1945, Germany capitulated. The Third Reich ceased to exist. Joseph Stalin. In 1937, on Joseph Stalin's orders, more than 1.5 million people were arrested, of whom about 680,000 were executed. By that time, he had already concentrated full control over the party, the state, and the security apparatus of the USSR in his hands. After Vladimir Lenin's death in 1924, Stalin, holding the position of General Secretary of the Central Committee, used personnel appointments to gradually eliminate his rivals. Leon Trotsky was exiled and later killed in Mexico. Grigory Zinoviev and Lev Kamenev were sentenced in public trials and executed. By the end of the 1930s, the opposition had been eliminated. In the late 1920s, Stalin authorized total collectivization. The forced requisition of grain caused the famine of 1932 to 1933, which claimed millions of lives, particularly in Ukraine. At the same time, industrialization was carried out through 5-year plans, involving forced labor within the Gulag system. In 1939, Stalin signed a non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany that provided for the division of spheres of influence in Eastern Europe. After Germany's invasion in 1941, he headed the State Defense Committee. Soviet losses in the war amounted to over 20 million people. After 1945, the USSR established control over the countries of Eastern Europe. Stalin died on March 5, 1953. During the following years, his successors condemned the cult of personality. Some of the repressed were rehabilitated. The system of mass terror was reduced, but the model of power he created remained. Mao Zedong. In 1958, Mao Zedong ordered the launch of the Great Leap Forward campaign, which involved more than 600 million people. Agriculture was collectivized into people's communes, private property was effectively eliminated, and production targets were set centrally. Harvest reports were systematically inflated, and grain was requisitioned by the state for export and to supply the cities. In 1959 to 1961, this led to famine. According to various estimates, from 15 to 30 million people died. Mao was born in 1893 in Hunan province into a peasant family. In 1921, he became one of the founders of the Communist Party of China. After the split with the Kuomintang in 1927, he organized armed units in rural areas. During the Long March of 1934 to 1935, he consolidated control over the party leadership. In the course of the Civil War of 1946 to 1949, his forces achieved victory. On October 1, 1949, the People's Republic of China was proclaimed in Beijing. After establishing power, a land reform was carried out. According to official data, hundreds of thousands of landlords were executed. In the 1950s, campaigns against counter-revolutionaries and rightist elements were conducted. Hundreds of thousands of people were imprisoned or sent to labor camps. In 1966, Mao initiated the Cultural Revolution. Red Guard units attacked party officials, teachers, and intellectuals. The state apparatus was disorganized, millions of people were persecuted, and hundreds of thousands died. Mao remained chairman of the party until his death in September 1976. After his death, the Gang of Four was arrested, and the country's course was gradually changed. The policy of radical mobilization was ended, and economic reforms were initiated. Pol Pot. On April 17, 1975, the troops of the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh and within a few days forcibly evacuated nearly 2 million residents of the capital. The urban population was declared a hostile element and deported to rural communes. Pol Pot, born as Saloth Sar in 1925, was educated in France, where he joined Marxist circles. After returning to Cambodia, he gradually strengthened his influence within the Communist Party of Kampuchea. By the early 1970s, he headed the armed underground, using the civil war and the destabilization caused by American bombings to expand control over rural areas. After seizing power, the regime proclaimed the creation of Democratic Kampuchea. Money was abolished, schools were closed, religious institutions were eliminated, and private property was banned. The population was divided into labor communes. A norm of forced labor of up to 12 to 16 hours per day was established. Any suspicion of disloyalty was punished by arrest and execution. Through the prison system, including S-21 in Phnom Penh, thousands of prisoners passed. Most were executed after interrogations. The total number of deaths from executions, famine, disease, and exhaustion is estimated at between 1.5 and 2 million people, which constituted approximately a quarter of the country's population. In 1978, internal purges weakened the leadership. After border conflicts, Vietnam launched a military invasion. In January 1979, the regime fell, and the leadership fled to the jungle. Pol Pot retained formal influence over the remnants of the movement until 1997, when he was removed by his own associates. He died in 1998 under house arrest in a rebel-controlled area. Benito Mussolini. On October 28, 1922, about 30,000 militants marched on Rome on the orders of Benito Mussolini. King Victor Emmanuel III refused to declare a state of emergency and instructed him to form a government. Mussolini became the youngest prime minister of Italy. After the First World War, he created the Fasces of Combat, relying on veterans and nationalists. In 1921, his movement was transformed into the National Fascist Party. The Black Shirt Squads carried out attacks on socialists, trade unions, and municipalities. During 1922, hundreds of political murders were recorded. In 1925, Mussolini declared the establishment of a dictatorship. Opposition parties were banned, and the press was placed under control. The secret police OVRA was created. Thousands of opponents were arrested or exiled to islands. Parliament effectively lost its powers. In 1935, he ordered the invasion of Ethiopia to begin. During the campaign, mustard gas was used. According to various estimates, up to 300,000 Ethiopians were killed. In 1936, the Italian Empire was proclaimed. That same year, an alliance with Adolf Hitler was concluded. In 1938, racial laws against Jews were introduced. After Italy entered the Second World War in June 1940, the army suffered defeats in Greece and North Africa. In July 1943, the Grand Fascist Council voted for his removal. The king ordered Mussolini's arrest. In September 1943, German troops freed him and established the puppet Italian Social Republic in the north. Repressions intensified, and thousands of Italians were deported to camps. On April 28, 1945, Mussolini was shot by partisans near Lake Como. His regime ceased to exist along with the defeat of fascist Italy. Saddam Hussein. In September 1980, on his orders, Iraq launched a full-scale invasion of Iran, starting a war that lasted 8 years and led to the deaths of more than 1 million people on both sides. Saddam Hussein was born in 1937 near Tikrit. In 1957, he joined the Ba'ath Party. After participating in an assassination attempt on Prime Minister Abd al-Karim Qasim, he was forced to leave the country. He returned after the 1968 coup, when the Ba'athists established control over the state. He headed the security apparatus, controlled the intelligence services, and gradually consolidated influence over the army and party structures. In July 1979, he forced President Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr to resign and assumed the position of head of state. Shortly afterward, he organized a staged meeting of the party leadership, after which dozens of officials were arrested and executed. A system of repression with broad powers for the security services was established. In 1988, during Operation Anfal against the Kurdish population, mass arrests, deportations, and chemical weapons were used. In Halabja, about 5,000 civilians were killed. The total number of victims of the campaign is estimated at up to 100,000 people. In August 1990, Iraqi troops occupied Kuwait. The UN Security Council imposed sanctions. In 1991, an international coalition launched a military operation that ended with Iraq's withdrawal and significant equipment losses. The sanctions regime lasted for more than a decade. In March 2003, coalition forces carried out an invasion of Iraq. Baghdad was taken in April. In December 2003, Saddam Hussein was captured near Tikrit. In 2006, an Iraqi court found him guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced him to death. The sentence was carried out on December 30, 2006. Kim Jong-il. In 1994, after the death of Kim Il-sung, control over the Democratic People's Republic of Korea passed to his son Kim Jong-il without the formal immediate proclamation of the position of president. He consolidated power through the posts of chairman of the State Defense Committee and supreme commander of the Korean People's Army. By that time, he had for more than 2 decades controlled the organization and guidance department of the Workers' Party of Korea, carrying out personnel appointments and overseeing the security structures. In 1980, he was officially presented as the successor at the 6th Party Congress. After 1994, he established the policy of Sun-gun, the priority of the army in state governance and the allocation of resources. During the famine of 1995 to 1998, known as the Arduous March, according to various estimates, from 240,000 to over 1 million people died. The state restricted internal movement, strengthened control over food distribution, and expanded the network of political prison camps. On his orders, the development of the missile program continued. In 1998, the Taepodong-1 missile was launched over the territory of Japan. In 2006, the DPRK conducted its first underground nuclear test. After that, the UN Security Council imposed sanctions. In 2009, a second nuclear test took place, which led to the expansion of international restrictions on trade and financial operations. Internally, he sanctioned systematic purges in the party apparatus and the army. Leading positions were occupied by individuals connected to the family or personally loyal. The information isolation of the population was maintained through full control over the media and the prohibition of access to foreign sources. On December 17, 2011, Kim Jong-il died of a heart attack during a train trip. Power was immediately transferred to his son Kim Jong-un. The state system built on military priority and centralized control remained without institutional changes. Kim Jong-un. In December 2013, on the orders of Kim Jong-un, his uncle Jang Song-thaek was executed along with several close officials. The decision was made after a closed session of the Politburo of the Workers' Party of Korea. This became a signal of the consolidation of power by the new leader. Kim Jong-un was born on January 8, 1984. He is the third son of Kim Jong-il. After his father's stroke in 2008, he began to be prepared as the successor. In September 2010, he received the rank of Army General and the position of Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission. After the death of Kim Jong-il on December 17, 2011, state media announced him as the supreme leader. During 2012, he assumed the positions of First Secretary of the Party, First Chairman of the State Defense Committee, and Marshal of the DPRK. In 2012 to 2017, the DPRK conducted more than 80 missile launches. In 2013 and 2016, underground nuclear tests were carried out. In September 2017, the testing of a thermonuclear device was announced. Resolutions of the UN Security Council imposed restrictions on the export of coal, textiles, and seafood. The economy experienced a reduction in foreign currency revenues. According to South Korean intelligence, in the first 5 years of his rule, more than 300 officials were executed. Some military figures were removed through anti-corruption campaigns. The borders remained closed, and control over the population was strengthened through a system of internal permits and re-education camps. In 2018, Kim Jong-un held summits with the President of South Korea and met with the President of the United States. Negotiations on denuclearization ended without an agreement. By 2023, the nuclear program remained active, sanctions remained in place, and the political system of the DPRK continued to function under one-man leadership. Osama bin Laden. On September 11, 2001, on his orders, 19 operatives hijacked 4 passenger airplanes and directed them at targets in the United States, resulting in the deaths of nearly 3,000 people. Osama bin Laden was born in 1957 in Riyadh into the family of a Saudi construction magnate. In the 1980s, he financed and organized the recruitment of Arab volunteers for the war in Afghanistan against Soviet troops. After the withdrawal of the USSR, he formed a network of contacts that became the basis of the organization Al-Qaeda, created in 1988. In 1991, he left Saudi Arabia and moved to Sudan, where he established training camps and financial structures. In 1996, he returned to Afghanistan under the protection of the Taliban regime. That same year, he announced the beginning of an armed campaign against the U.S. military presence in the Middle East. In 1998, he signed a fatwa calling for the killing of U.S. citizens and their allies. On August 7, 1998, Al-Qaeda militants carried out bombings near the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. More than 200 people were killed, and thousands were injured. In 2000, the destroyer USS Cole was attacked in the port of Aden. 17 service members were killed. After the attacks of 2001, the United States launched a military operation in Afghanistan. The Taliban regime was removed from power, but bin Laden evaded capture and hid in Pakistan. On May 2, 2011, a U.S. Navy unit conducted an operation in Abbottabad. Osama bin Laden was killed. The body was buried in the Arabian Sea. Al-Qaeda lost its central leadership, but the network continued to operate in regional branches. Muammar Gaddafi. On September 1, 1969, a group of officers led by Muammar Gaddafi carried out a military coup in Libya, removing King Idris I and proclaiming the creation of the Libyan Arab Republic. At the time of seizing power, Gaddafi was 27 years old. He abolished the monarchy, dissolved parliament, and banned political parties. He concentrated the governance of the state in the Revolutionary Command Council. In the 1970s, he initiated the nationalization of the oil industry and the expulsion of foreign military bases. Revenues from oil exports were directed towards social programs and armaments. In 1977, he proclaimed the Jamahiriya, a system of formal popular self-government through revolutionary committees that controlled the administration, universities, and enterprises. Real power remained in his hands. Opposition activity was punished by arrests, executions, and disappearances. According to human rights organizations, hundreds of political prisoners were executed in the 1980s. In 1996, during the suppression of a riot at Abu Salim prison, more than 1,200 inmates were killed. Libya financed armed groups abroad. In 1988, the bombing of an aircraft over Lockerbie led to the deaths of 270 people. The responsibility of Libyan agents was confirmed by a court. After international sanctions in the 1990s, Gaddafi agreed to compensation and the abandonment of weapons of mass destruction programs in 2003. In February 2011, mass protests began in Libya. The army used force against demonstrators. According to UN estimates, thousands of people were killed during the conflict. After NATO intervention, rebels took Tripoli. On October 20, 2011, Gaddafi was captured in Sirte and killed. Central authority collapsed, and the country descended into a prolonged armed conflict. Idi Amin. On January 25, 1971, the commander of the Ugandan army, Idi Amin, ordered the seizure of power while President Milton Obote was abroad. Military units took control of radio stations, the airport, and government buildings in Kampala. The constitution was suspended, parliament dissolved, and political activity banned. Amin relied on the support of part of the army, primarily soldiers from the northern regions. He quickly removed officers suspected of disloyalty. During the first months, hundreds of servicemen were executed without trial. The State Security Service was granted authority to carry out arrests without a warrant. In 1972, Amin ordered the expulsion from the country of about 60,000 people of Asian origin. Their property was confiscated and handed over to the military and those close to the regime. The economic system lost managerial personnel and trade networks. Production declined, and inflation rose. Between 1971 and 1979, according to estimates by human rights organizations, from 100,000 to 300,000 people were killed. Bodies were often taken to the Nile River or buried in mass graves. The judicial system effectively did not function. Opposition politicians, journalists, and members of the clergy became targets of persecution. In 1978, Amin ordered the invasion of Tanzania. The Tanzanian army, together with Ugandan rebels, launched a counteroffensive. In April 1979, Kampala was captured. The regime ceased to exist. Amin fled first to Libya, then to Saudi Arabia, where he lived in exile until his death in 2003. Augusto Pinochet. On September 11, 1973, the armed forces of Chile, on the orders of General Augusto Pinochet, carried out an assault on the presidential palace La Moneda. President Salvador Allende died in the building. The military junta announced the dissolution of Congress, the banning of parties, and the suspension of the 1925 Constitution. Pinochet headed the junta and concentrated control over the army, navy, air force, and carabineros. Before the coup, Pinochet had been commander-in-chief of the army, appointed by Allende 3 weeks before the events. After seizing power, he gradually removed the other members of the junta from real influence. In 1974, he proclaimed himself supreme head of the nation and later president of the republic. The secret police DINA was created. During the first years of the regime, detention and torture centers operated, including at the stadium in Santiago and at Villa Grimaldi. According to official data from the National Commission for Truth and Reconciliation, more than 3,000 people were killed or disappeared. About 38,000 suffered imprisonment and torture. Thousands were forced to emigrate. In foreign policy, the regime participated in Operation Condor, coordinating the persecution of opposition figures with other military governments of South America. In 1980, a new constitution was adopted in a referendum, extending his powers for 8 years. In 1988, a plebiscite rejected the extension of his mandate. In 1990, Pinochet transferred presidential power to a civilian government, retaining the post of commander-in-chief of the army until 1998. That same year, he was arrested in London on an international warrant. Returned to Chile, he remained under investigation until his death in 2006 without a final verdict.